From emails to reports and project proposals, it's hard to meet the demands of today's competing priorities without some help. Grammarly is the essential AI communication assistant that boosts your productivity at work so you can get more of what you need done faster. Just a few clicks can tailor your tone and writing so you come across exactly as you intend. Get time back to focus on your high-impact work. Download Grammarly for free at grammarly.com/podcast. That's grammarly.com/podcast.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles Mackenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
America's two great pastimes collide on this podcast. It is baseball and making money. From the dog days of summer through the October Classic, Greg Bases Peterson's going to be free swinging at the betting board as he tries to hit a grand slam for your bankroll. Now here is GP.
Happy Friday, one and all. Welcome into MLB Overtime Betting. Greg Peterson broadcasting from the Azuñia Tequila Studios out here in beautiful Las Vegas. It is a wonderful day today, as yesterday was a fun one, and I think today is going to be even better because we've got Iain MacMillian of OddsShark joining me in the second segment. In the final segment, I give you a side and total on every game on the Las Vegas betting board as we touch them all. And in this first segment, we're going to be recapping what we saw in a really wild Thursday in baseball. But first, I got a really good question in regards to bankroll management, and everything like that. So let's get into it.
So you have questions, and Greg may or may not have any insight into them, but let's dive into the Twitter mailbag.
This one comes to me by a gentleman by the name of Patrick Dufresne. You can follow him on Twitter at Patrick_Dufresne. That is spelled Dufrene. He asks, in regards to money management, at G_81, what percent of your bankroll makes up a unit? As your bankroll increases, when do you increase your unit size? Do you wait until the season is over, or do you adjust your unit size in regards to bankroll fluctuation? And then he said in another tweet, does your unit/percentage of your bankroll bet change from sport to sport based on game volume? Usually baseball is about 30 bets per day max, while in college basketball you could have 50 plus per day. And actually, it's more like sometimes you could have 300 a day in college basketball. And he says that he loves the work, and I thank him for that. My unit amount from sport to sport does change a little bit, just because with college basketball, there are times where I have 300 plays a day, so I have to go with 1/3% on my bankroll on every play in that. And in baseball last year, I was actually playing 2% of my bankroll. The reason why I was doing that is because I was essentially betting to get out of student loan debt. If I can be totally honest with you behind the curtain, I was about $15,000 in student loan debt last year. I just kept betting games until I was able to pay it all off, and that's essentially the way I was going about it. I'm not going to go into the exact dollar amount just because I feel like that's always private information, and everyone has a different bankroll. There are some people listening to me right now that probably have a bankroll of $25,000+, and there are other of you that probably have a bankroll of maybe even less than $200. So it just varies from person to person. I personally, this year for baseball, since I do have my student loan debt paid off, I am betting significantly less of my bankroll on every single play. Right now, I've went at 0.5%. I feel like that's a very safe amount. It's an amount where if I just go super ice cold, I don't have to worry about it. I don't need to adjust down or anything like that. But I will adjust how much my unit amount is based on the season, typically when my bankroll goes up. When my bankroll goes down, I actually keep it the same. Like many of you may remember, I was actually down at 1.47 units during college basketball last season, and I just stayed the course, and I only increased it when I was really starting to make money. But with regards to increasing my bankroll amount, typically I take a look at it on a month-by-month basis. The one exception was in college basketball. You guys may remember I was just on this absolute burner run from like late January through mid-February when I made like 100 units in like 2 weeks. And I was just like, yeah, you know what? We'll just jack it up now. It's been a really good past couple weeks. But typically, I reevaluate month by month. Like this month in baseball, I'm up in the neighborhood of 30 units. I'm going to have to do the exact math because I do that at the end of the night, and I'm doing this podcast before I do it there. But on May 1st, I'm probably going to be adjusting my unit amount a little bit. I'm going to be putting down a couple more dollars per game, but it's nothing going to be completely outrageous. I keep my percentage the same. And for a percent of bankroll to bet on games, typically the industry standard is 1%. I keep it a little bit less just because I do have a much higher volume of plays. Most people that bet 1% of their bankroll, they're typically playing much fewer games than I am. So feel free to bet a little bit more if you're a more selective player. If you're a higher volume player, you want to keep it a little bit lower. Like right now in baseball, 0.5% for me. That means that on a typical slate of 15 games, you have one side, one total that makes up 30 plays. That means that 15% of my bankroll is up for grabs, essentially. If it would be that every play would be essentially one unit, typically that's a little bit more because I bet the amount on a favorite, like let's say it's minus 130, I bet 1.3 units in order to make one. So typically it's a little bit more than 15% on those sorts of days, but it's nothing really too drastic because as you guys know, I'm very much an underdog player. So hopefully that lends a little bit of light on bankroll management and everything like that. I really enjoyed the question, and let's get into yesterday's action and let's see if we can find some bettable trends from what we saw.
What trends should you pay attention to? Well, Greg is going to tell you what he has on the black.
The Arizona Diamondbacks have a 4-game sweep over the Pittsburgh Pirates. You got to continue to be taking unders with the Pittsburgh Pirates, even though I know that a couple games in the series went over, but the Arizona Diamondbacks win this game 5-0. Zach Greinke has to be a bet-on pitcher at this point. He's been one of the studs that has actually lived up to the hype aside from that first start where he just got completely tattooed. He goes 7 innings, gives up just 2 hits, 7 strikeouts. He looked absolutely sensational. The Pittsburgh Pirates bats, they had a combined 5 hits. They didn't scratch across a run, and Jameson Taillon got a bit roughed up. 5 innings pitched, gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned. The good news is for the Pittsburgh Pirates, their bullpen looked good. 4 innings of relief, but for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they were able to do it with really nobody going yard. They did have a Gerard Dyson triple along with Zach Greinke getting a triple off of Jameson Taillon, which is really scary, but this Arizona Diamondbacks team is hitting for average and for power. You got to be taking a look at them moving forward. They're overachieving so far this year, and the prices have not caught up with them. They were an underdog in just about every game of this series. The LA Dodgers seem to have slowed down with the bats, but they got a terrific start from Ross Stripling, and they were able to get a win by a count of 2-1. Ross Stripling is a guy that you want to back, but he had to leave this game in the 5th inning due to an injury. He only went 76 pitches, so that is something that you have to note. But the bullpen was actually pretty good for the LA Dodgers. In 4.1 innings of relief, the only run was given up by Kenley Jansen. That was an Albert Almora Jr. home run. That was his first of the campaign. And for the Chicago Cubs, they're not necessarily hitting for the most contact as well. You've got guys like Ben Zobrist, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, and Kyle Schwarber. All 4 of these guys hitting right now 232 or worse. They did get a very good start out of John Lester. He looked great coming off the injured list. In 5 innings pitched, he allowed just 1 run, and that run was really set up by a Javi Baez error as well, to be fair to him. So all in all, you saw some pretty good pitching in this one. The Chicago Cubs still look to be a team that you got to back, and the Dodgers right now getting a little bit more out of the bullpen, though the bats have slowed down, so maybe you take a look at a couple more unders with them. You got to continue to just be taking unders with the Cincinnati Reds. They knock off the Atlanta Braves by a count of 4-2. This game, very interestingly, had a 2-hour and 42-minute rain delay. For those of us that had the under and the run line with the Cincinnati Reds, this game was a sweat as it took nearly 6 hours for this thing to cash, but it was Eugenio Suarez who really got things going for the Reds on offense. He had 3 RBI in this one. Luis Castillo looked great for 6 innings. He gives up no runs, but he got into trouble in the 7th inning. He wound up having the bases loaded with no outs, and you've got to give this Reds bullpen some credit. We've seen so many teams with bullpens that you can't trust, but David Hernandez comes in with the bases loaded and no outs, and he strikes out the side. Now, Zach Duke is a reliever that you want no part of with the Reds, but he's essentially the only gas can in that bullpen. In 1/10 of an inning, he winds up giving up 2 runs, and those runs were provided by a home run that was hit by Freddie Freeman, his 3rd of the year, and those were the only runs that the Braves got. Julio Teheran actually looked a little bit better in this game. He gave up 3 runs in 6 innings, but he's still a pitcher that I want no part of, and I don't want any part of the bullpen of the Braves as well. Wesley Parsons gives up 1 run in 2 innings of relief himself as the Reds wind up getting the win in this one, cashing on the run line, and Luis Castillo continues to be a pitcher that you can trust. A pitcher that you've got to be continuing to fade, Aaron Nola, who just is not his same self. Now, it wasn't him that was a problem in this one. He was just badly overvalued because he looked great in this game as the Miami Marlins take it 3-1 in 10 innings. Aaron Nola had by far his best start of the year. He scattered 7 hits across 6.2 innings, but he only gives up 1 run. Didn't necessarily have the strikeouts, only 4, but he looked decent in this one. Sir Anthony Dominguez comes in relief, but Hector Neris, he winds up giving this one up for the Philadelphia Phillies as the Miami Marlins in the 10th inning get some offense out of Sterling Castro. He hits his 3rd home run of the year. The Miami Marlins continue to be a team that you got to take unders with, but how about the way that Caleb Smith pitched in this one? He continues to be a starter that you can actually rely upon. ERA now 2.17. He gives up 3 hits in 6 innings, 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts, and the bullpen of the Miami Marlins nails. In 4 innings, they give up just 1 hit, and the Philadelphia Phillies, they're not hitting well right now. They are in a massive funk. Cesar Hernandez, of all the players in their lineup from yesterday, currently has the highest average on the team. That is something absolutely stunning because they're dealing with a lot of injuries themselves. The Boston Red Sox appear to be getting back on track. They get their 2nd straight win, knocking off the Detroit Tigers by a count of 7-3. Jordan Zimmerman, after I wouldn't call it great start to the year, but at least a not horrible one, now is 0-4 in 3 innings pitched. He gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned. And for the Boston Red Sox, getting a dinger off of him, one Michael Chivas, who seems to be coming around with the bat a little bit. That was his 2nd dinger of the year, as it was just a bunch of RBI and just some good small ball by the Red Sox in this one, as they had a total of 5 guys get at least 1 RBI. Rick Porcello seems to be doing a little bit better on the mound, but he's still a guy that I'm looking to fade. 6 innings pitch, he winds up giving up 3 runs, had 2 walks, and he gave up a home run. And hitting that home run for the Detroit Tigers and put him up at the time by a count of 3-2 was Nick Castellanos, his 1st of the year. And it looks like things are starting to turn around for Castellanos, but all in all, the Detroit Tigers, it looks like their bullpen is really going into the tank right now. This might be where you want to stop taking the plus prices with the Tigers because things seem to be falling back to earth a little bit. The unders with the Cleveland Indians, whenever someone other than Corey Kluber is on the mound, seem to be cashing as well, as Trevor Bauer continues to be a starter that I trust. He goes 8 innings against the Houston Astros, gives up just 1 run and 4 hits. He goes 118 pitches as the Indians get a 2-1 win. Providing the offense for the Cleveland Indians in the 3rd inning was Leonis Martin, his 4th of the campaign. This is a Cleveland Indians team that only got 4 hits in the game, but Garrett Cole now 1-4. This loss not necessarily on him. He gives up 2 runs in 7 innings, had 10 punch-outs. So this was one that certainly was not on his ledger, but he still has a 4.71 ERA. He continues to be a bit too badly overvalued. And doing the only offense for the Houston Astros with George Springer, he had his 8th home run of the year in the 3rd inning. That's all of the offense that the Houston Astros got, as that was a very low-scoring game. A game that had a little bit more offense than we expected was the Angels versus Yankees game. The Angels get an 11-5 win as they just completely exploded for a grand total of all those 11 runs between the 5th and 7th innings. Cole Calhoun had his 6th home run of the year. Tommy La Stella goes deep for his 7th. And when you take a look up and down, the LA Angels are finally starting to hit. And for the LA Angels, Trevor Cale had another bad start in this one. He gives up 4 runs in 4 innings, but the bullpen looked very good in this one. For the Angels, they went 5 innings, gave up just 1 run. Now, the bullpen is getting badly taxed, but the Angels still have a good bullpen. Meanwhile, for the Yankees, Masahiro Tanaka just got Tanaka'd around. 5.2 innings, gives up 6 runs, 5 of which were earned, 3 walks. Just did not look good. And then the relief pitching of the New York Yankees, not good. One, Joe Harvey gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning, and Stephen Tarpley put lighter fluid on this game. In 1/10 of an inning, he gives up 2 runs. And speaking of putting lighter fluid on games, this game is currently in the bottom of the 8th inning, but I need to have this up by midnight, and this game is done because the Seattle Mariners are up by 12 runs. If the Seattle Mariners blow this 12-run lead in the 9th inning, I don't know what to tell you guys, but for the Texas Rangers, making his MLB debut, Taylor Hearn. He goes 1/10 of an inning, 39 pitches. His ERA is 108. Yes! He gives up 5 runs, 4 of which were earned, 4 walks. Absolute embarrassment as the first 4 pitchers that go into the game for the Texas Rangers all give up a double-digit amount of runs. For the Seattle Mariners, in 5 of their first 7 innings, they hung a crooked number of at least 2 runs in every one of those innings. And for the Seattle Mariners, they were honestly not even doing it with the long ball. The only home run in those first 7 innings was Tim Beckham, his 6th home run of the year. But when you just take a look up and down the lineup, 5 guys had multiple RBI, and Marco Gonzalez continues to be a pitcher that you can trust. 7 innings pitched. He does not give up a run, 9 strikeouts. Now, I will say, they didn't necessarily get the best relief out of Ronis Elias, who gave up 2 runs, but none of those were earned runs. It was all because of an error, ironically enough, by himself. So there was that. His fielding not necessarily the best, but with that said, when the team's up 14-0, it's a little bit more understandable. And the Texas Rangers entered into this game 12-11. They cash a lot of plus tickets, but with the way the pitching is right now, you just have to be taking Texas Rangers games over, and you have to be looking at the run line of the other side. It just does not look good for this team right now. They're a very feast or famine hitting team, as in this game, they're just getting absolutely nothing generated. You've got so many guys like Joey Gallo, Noah Mazzara, and company that they either hit a home run or they strike out. So that's obviously a big bugaboo for this team. And like I said, the pitching is just awful. So that is what stood out to me yesterday, some good bettable trends. Now we've got to look forward to today, and helping me do so, one Iain MacMillian of OddsShark. That is up next right here on MLB Overtime Betting.
Greg is going to the bullpen as he makes a call to the Azuña hotline.
And we are back here on MLB Overtime Betting. Greg Peterson broadcasting from the Azuña Tequila Studios out here in beautiful Las Vegas. As you know, our good buddies at OddsShark have treated me very well on this fine podcast so far this year, so I figured we need to get on one of these other fine gentlemen as well that does great work over there for that fine company. It is Iain MacMillian that is joining me today. He is on Twitter at IainMacOS, and Ian is spelled I-A-I-N, not I-A-N. So add on that extra I. Always want to note that. You got to have the people finding you out correctly, and he does a little bit of everything. He does a great work being able to track the hockey playoffs that are going on right now. Obviously does quite a bit of work with the baseball world, NBA playoffs. You name it, he does it, and Ian is joining me right now. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, Greg. Thanks for having me on. I actually sit next to Gilles and Scotty, so they've mentioned that they've been on your show a couple times, so I appreciate that I got the call up. It's exciting to be here.
We've had Scott, we've had Gilles, and we've got Joe Osborne as well. So you are number 4 on the list, and every one of you guys has been spectacular. And speaking of spectacular, how good have the Seattle Mariners been so far this year? They are going to be in action on Friday, taking on the Texas Rangers. Shelby Miller going on the bump for the Texas Rangers. I don't know about you, but I have sort of a pitchers that I like to fade list, and Shelby Miller is towards the top of the list. In 4 starts so far this year, he has been averaging fewer than 4 innings per start, ERA above a 7.5. You see Kikuchi, not necessarily the Mona Lisa Vito of pitching himself. He's given up 3 earned runs or more in every one of his starts in April, and a total of 9. Is it just me, or is this looking like a very obvious game in which you have to take a look at the Seattle Mariners and the over, just because you've got 2 gas can pitchers out there, 2 bullpens that aren't necessarily great, and a Seattle Mariners team that's mashing against a Texas Rangers bullpen that, let's face it, has been used a lot recently?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the over. The Seattle pick, that one's going to be a little bit tough for me because it is Kikuchi getting the start there, and I have read that they kind of only plan on putting Kikuchi out there for an inning or 2 just to get used to kind of opening games over here in the MLB. So he's not going to be in the game very long. They're going to have to go to their bullpen early. So that makes me a little bit cautious to take the Mariners in that spot. But I definitely do love the over because, like you said, both bullpens aren't great. Seattle's 21st in bullpen ERA. Texas is 22nd. Seattle does have a pretty good batting average against right-handed pitchers. I think their OPS is around 809, I believe. So I do love the over. They're first and fifth in runs per game, so they definitely can score some points. I do like the over. It's just the fact that Kikuchi's in there for an inning, maybe two at the most, that makes me a little bit cautious to take the Mariners in that spot.
And I actually personally did write up on this game for the New York Post myself, and the play that I posted up was the over. I just feel like this is a very good spot in which runs are going to be aplenty for both these teams. We've seen both these teams have an over percent greater than 55% going into this series. So I certainly do think that neither of these teams going to have a shortage of runs. We might have a little bit more of a shortage of runs, though, in the New York Yankees versus the San Francisco Giants game. We've got two very solid pitchers going in this one. James Paxton for the New York Yankees. And for the San Francisco Giants, Madison Bumgarner is going out there. We know that the Giants have the number one bullpen ERA in the big leagues. They looked very good in their series against the Toronto Blue Jays. Meanwhile, the New York Yankees, I don't know how, I don't know why, but they just continue to find a way to get the job done. Going into Thursday, they had won 8 of their last 9 games. It doesn't matter who's out of the lineup. Looks like Gary Sanchez is coming back, but they're still without over half their starters from opening day. Now they've got Clint Frazier going to the injured list, and yet they're still finding a way to get the job done. I don't know about you, but I can't explain how the Yankees just continue to win all these games, especially all these one-run games, because this team is battered beyond belief, and yet somehow they're continuing to cash tickets for bettors.
Yeah, the Yankees, to be honest, that's one team that I just have not bet on the past few weeks because of the fact that they're so banged up. I know that you love to take a side and a total in every single game, and that's extremely impressive. I'm actually the complete opposite of that. At this point in the MLB season, I've made around 55 bets, I believe, so I'm a little bit more selective with what I'm taking, and the Yankees just day in and day out until they get healthy. I can't bet on or against them because I just don't know what to expect, and I mean, the point you made is exactly right. Even though they're banged up, they're winning these games, so I don't want to fade them either. One thing that I have noticed in this game, though, Paxton and Bumgarner, they're both having great seasons. Their season ERAs right around what their career ERA is at. One little sneaky play that I have done a few times this year that I do like is actually a prop bet for over-under strikeouts by pitcher. One thing that I've noticed is Paxton does have a lot. He's averaging 13.3 strikeouts per 9 innings this season. That's quite a bit higher than his career average, which is around 9.7. So I do kind of expect that to come down a little bit. And the Giants do have the 10th fewest strikeouts per game as well. So they don't strike out a whole lot. So I think the under strikeouts prop for Paxton may be worth a look. Now, I don't know what it is. They don't usually come up with those ones until pretty last minute. But that would kind of be where I'm looking at for this game. But like I said earlier, I mean, it's hard to handicap these Yankees when they're this banged up and they still keep winning games. It's crazy.
Oh, absolutely. And you take a look at James Paxton's last 2 starts. He's gotten 12 strikeouts, but those 2 starts were against a Boston team that, let's face it, the brand name of the Red Sox is big, as we've got Iain MacMillian joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting, does terrific work for OddsShark. As I mentioned, he had 12 strikeouts against the Boston Red Sox, but they're not hitting the way that we typically expect them to. And then the Kansas City Royals, who are, well, the Kansas City Royals, so that's not saying a whole lot there. And speaking of the Boston Red Sox, I feel like one of the biggest money makers for me so far this year has been fading the Boston Red Sox. I still remember in that doubleheader against the Tigers a couple days ago, I took the Tigers in both games, wound up making like 3.6 or 3.7 units. It was just a big, giant cash maker for me. What has really gone wrong for this team? Because they're not hitting well. The bullpen hasn't been great. The starting pitching, Rick Porcello and company just have not been there. And if you've been betting against the Boston Red Sox this year like I have been, you've made a whole lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And I think OddsShark actually just tweeted out that fact that if you blindly faded the Red Sox every game this year with like $100 bets, you'd be up like $1,300 or $1,400. It's pretty crazy. This is actually something I wanted to ask you because this is something that I've kind of been doing recently where I look at either pitchers or teams that are either overperforming or underperforming, and I assume that they're going to at some point kind of regress to the mean. And the Red Sox here, I mean, this is a prime example of that. This is a team that won the World Series last year, and they've got off to just a brutal start. It's kind of tough to handle this. Like, should you start taking the Red Sox to win because you just assume that they're eventually going to turn it around, or do you just keep fading the Red Sox until they do? It's a tough question to answer, and I don't know the answer with that with this specific team. I definitely know the bullpen has been letting them down kind of more than anything. They're 23rd in bullpen ERA, an ERA of 4.99. That's not going to win you games. But I don't know how to bet on this Red Sox team. I think at some point they got to get back to their World Series form. But when that's going to happen, I don't know. That's kind of my question to you. How do you kind of handle teams and pitchers like this that are either underperforming or overperforming by a large margin?
It's a good question. The reason why I've been betting against the Boston Red Sox is just because their numbers are so badly inflated. Chris Sale a couple days ago against the Tigers was more than a $2 favorite. As it stands, typically, I have a tough time being able to lay those prices on just about anyone, let alone a team that's below 500. So the value is definitely there with the Detroit Tigers. And I always advise people to sort of have a number in your mind as to what a team should be. Right now, my number on the Boston Red Sox is lower than it was to begin the year, but in my opinion, it's all about value, and I feel like when you take plus prices out there with baseball, you're going to somehow, some way be profitable, just because even the worst of teams, sans maybe the Baltimore Orioles, are going to be able to get to like 65 or so wins.
Yeah, kind of on that point as well, I know out of all the North American major leagues, baseball is a sport where underdogs win at the highest rate as well, so definitely something to consider.
Oh, absolutely, as it is Iain MacMillian joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting. And then another team that I think is very curious and has gotten off to a very good start so far this year is the San Diego Padres. We saw Chris Paddock on Wednesday just be completely lights out. He had 1 hit in 7 innings. They're going to be going up against Max Scherzer. And Max Scherzer has not been his same self this year. Washington Nationals open up a big favorite here. Scherzer currently a 4.45 ERA, 1-3 record, and something that has been personally profitable for myself is fading these aces like a Garrett Cole, like a Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, Chris Sale, the list goes on and on. I don't know how you've been handling it with these struggling aces, but until further notice, I'm just going to continue to take these very big plus prices because, you know, the aces like these Scherzers, these Aaron Nolas, guys like that, they're going to get back on track. But even if you win like 40-45% of these bets, in the long run, you're still going to be profitable.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing with that Scherzer game tomorrow, do you see any odds for that game yet at this point?
I was seeing the Washington Nationals as a significant favorite. I think that they were hovering right around minus 170-ish, depending on what offshore book you were looking at.
Yeah, that's definitely fair enough. I mean, kind of on the point where I mentioned earlier, at this point in the season, what I like to do specifically at this point in the season is to start betting on guys who are either underperforming or overperforming, because I believe that around now is when they're going to start regressing to their mean. Max Scherzer is a perfect example of that with his season ERA of 4.45. He's not going to be pitching 4.45, the entire season. Another little tidbit that I did find for this game against the Padres, Nationals are the 4th best in OPS against lefties. They're batting .890 against lefties. San Diego is 28th in OPS versus righties. They're .674 in OPS versus right-handed pitchers. And the Padres lineup has a career batting average of .192 against Scherzer. That includes Manny Machado. He's only batting 107 against Scherzer in 28 at-bats. So I get your point. You want to ride, fade against these ace pitchers while they're not playing bad. But I think tomorrow's spot against the Padres is the perfect time for Max Scherzer and the Nationals to kind of turn things around.
Just for housekeeping, I'm actually now seeing a price of the Washington Nationals closer to minus 185. So certainly Scherzer getting some love there. And then Jacob deGrom, it looks like, is going to be making his first start off the injured list as he faces off against the Brewers. We've seen the Brewers go a little bit cold. They're a team that I like to bet. For one, I am a gentleman that was born and raised in Wisconsin, so there's a little bit of a bias there. And two, they do have a terrific offense, but it's going to be Chase Anderson against Jacob deGrom. This might be a spot where I do need to take a look at going against Jacob deGrom, just because even if he is terrific, this might be a spot where the Mets may not pitch him for very long. And I feel like something else that we do know about the New York Mets is the fact that, their bullpen, we saw it on full display on Wednesday, absolutely awful.
Yeah, their bullpen's terrible. 28th in the MLB in ERA. Their bullpen has a 5.6 ERA, which is definitely not going to win you games. This spot is kind of tricky because of that Jacob deGrom injury. There's some mystery around that, whether or not how serious it is. One kind of bet that I absolutely love is to do first 5 inning bets because it takes away the bullpen. In this scenario with the Mets having that terrible bullpen, I'm not betting on the Mets just to win a full game ever until their bullpen smartens up. I'm going to stick to betting kind of first 5 innings in Mets games. I'm hoping, I haven't seen the line for that game just quite yet, but I'm hoping that because of all the injury mystery around DeGrom that he gets a little bit undervalued in this spot. And if that is the case, then I'll probably be taking the Mets in the first 5 innings. But yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky spot with not knowing how long they'll keep him in there, as you said, because of the injury.
Not seeing a first 5 price right now, but I can tell you the Mets offshore right around a minus 170 to minus 175 favorite. So they're certainly not cutting you any discounts right now with Jacob deGrom. But we do have a couple pitchers that you might be getting a little bit more of a discount with. Max Fried is actually a pretty big favorite against the Colorado Rockies, but he has been lights out so far this year with the Atlanta Braves. He's right around a 160 to 165 favorite there. And then a pitcher that I've actually been betting a lot because he's been profitable, Carlos Rodon of the Chicago White Sox. Looks like he's right around a minus 130 to 135 favorite for the Chicago White Sox, who are going to be squaring off against the Detroit Tigers on Friday. How do you gauge some of these guys that maybe are a little bit off the beaten path but have really had good starts to the year, like a guy like a Max Fried, a Carlos Rodon? Because I've been backing these guys quite a bit, and it's been going well so far this year.
Yeah, I've been backing those guys as well, to be honest. I love backing kind of young pitchers early in the season when the public doesn't really know what they're capable of. And Fried's been a perfect example of that. Just a little note on Fried here for anyone who is interested in betting the first 5 innings. Right now, he's tied for the best first 5 ERA in the majors. He has an ERA of 0.9 in the first 5 innings. So that's going to be an interesting play against the Rockies. But yeah, early in the season, I love betting on these younger, more unknown guys to the public because they have skill sets that people aren't necessarily aware of. I am a little bit worried. I don't think a young pitcher like Fried is going to be able to keep this ERA up, obviously. In this specific scenario, especially with that first 5 inning spot, I'm going to ride it out. Rodon, I personally, I don't know if you play fantasy at all. I'm a huge fantasy baseball fan. I'm in multiple dynasty leagues. Rodon has just kind of not been kind to me the past couple of years. I thought that he was going to develop a little bit quicker than what he did. So because of that, I got to admit, sometimes I just have a bias either for or against players because of fantasy. I probably shouldn't. I should just stick to the numbers, but I can't really help it. So Rodon, I'm staying away from him. I've seen kind of him collapse and give up some. He's capable of giving up big home runs and things like that. So I'm going to stay away from him, but I love Fried. I'm going to be betting on him first 5.
Absolutely. And Ian, is there anything else on the slate for Friday that's really standing out to you? I'm noticing that the Pirates, who are badly banged up, do have Chris Archer going on the mound. It looks like they're about a plus 160 underdog against the LA Dodgers. I'm seeing the Miami Marlins with Jose Urania going up against Jared Eichhoff as right around a plus 170 underdog. I think that that's intriguing. Anything else that's really standing out to you?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that Pirates game. I did kind of notice one thing while digging through the numbers for that Pirates game. Listen to this. The Pittsburgh Pirates have the league worst OPS versus left-handed pitchers. They have an OPS of .582. That's the worst in the majors against left-handed pitchers. While on the other side of things, the Dodgers have the best OPS in the league versus right-handed pitchers. They have an OPS of .856. So this is one spot where one team is facing a right-handed pitcher and they've been dominating right-handed pitchers all year, and the other team is facing a left-handed pitcher and they've been dominated by left-handed pitchers all year. So I'm not too sure what the price is on the Dodgers as of right now against the Pirates, but if it's too much, that's even a spot that I'm going to be looking at a run line for, because those are pretty significant numbers right there.
Yeah, you should probably be taking a look at a run line in this spot then, because you're taking a look at the Dodgers laying anywhere between minus 168 and minus 174. So it's definitely some pretty
that'll be a run line look right there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I do not blame you there. You have to either take the Pirates or you have to take the run line. It's just really hard to lay those big money line prices. And Ian, I would like to close it up with this. I know you do tremendous work out there with OddsShark with so many other guys that have joined me. Scott Hastings, Gilles Gallant, Joe Osborne, the list goes on and on. Where can the good people find you on social media, and what are you all doing for OddsShark yourself?
Yeah, so my main role in OddsShark is actually to run the OddsShark social media account. So I don't do full write-ups like Scott and Joe does sometimes and Jill does. But you can find me on Twitter, Iain MacOS. As you mentioned before, my name is spelled weird. It has an extra I in there, so it's IAIN, MacOS. So because kind of my main role is to kind of run OddsShark social media, I do obviously do stuff a lot on my Twitter. Any spare time I get, I do handicapping. Baseball is definitely a big one that I do during the summer, but another sport, I know this is a baseball podcast, but if there's any listeners out there that do enjoy golf, I am very into golf betting as well. So check my Twitter feed for that. Because I don't do full write-ups on the OddsShark website, I do usually do a little breakdown of why I'm making each pick. So yeah, Iain MacOS, give me a follow, and yeah, let's talk sports betting.
Oh, absolutely. And I am a fan of golf myself. I thought that Xander Schauffele was going to be able to win the Masters. Came up just a little bit short, but it wasn't a bad bet. I will give myself that. I was dipping my toe in there, and I would say
that was my pick too. I made 3 picks. One of them was Xander too. So we were close, but it was fun to watch Tiger win.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very good for the game and very good for the podcast that Iain MacMillian joined me right here on MLB Overtime Betting. And coming up next, it is that time that I give you a side and total on every game on the Las Vegas betting board as we touch them all.
Hey, I'm Steve Heitner, the guy who uttered the famous phrase, "That's gold." And that's the inspiration of my new podcast, That's Gold with Steve Heitner. We talk sports, sports betting, movies, comedy, food, drink, Vegas, music, movies, and more. 5 days a week. Did I say movies twice? Look, guys love it, whether they're hip or worried about breaking a hip. Find us on Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify and Stitcher. That's Gold with me, Steve Heitner.
Welcome back to MLB Overtime. Greg is throwing a gem, so yeah, he better not blow it.
And a big thanks to Iain MacMillian of OddsShark for joining me in the last segment as we're back here in the Azuñia Tequila Studios for MLB Overtime Betting. And now it is that time of the show that I give you a side and total on every game on today's betting board, and we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Note, any changes to these plays is going to be noted on my Twitter page at @unit_81. We've got a lot of plays that are not locked in, some that are. I will be updating this throughout this podcast, and obviously any plays that are not locked in at the time of this podcast is going to be noted on my Twitter page when I do lock them in at @unit_81 as well. Many of you guys already know the drill, but I always like to give that little refresher. And as always, we go in Las Vegas rotation order. 951, 952 on the betting rotation. It is the Philadelphia Phillies playing host to the Miami Marlins. Jose Urena goes for the Miami Marlins. Jared Eichhoff for the Philadelphia Phillies. Total in this game is 8.5, and it's shaded a little bit under. Under is anywhere between -110 and -115. Over is anywhere between -105 and -110. If you like the fish, you're getting a big plus price, anywhere between +165 and +170. If you want late with Phillies, anywhere between -180 and -185. Does anyone really think that Jared Eichhoff can be a -180 starter against Jose Urena? This just looks like a mismatch. I know that the Miami Marlins are not hitting to save their lives right now, but my goodness gracious. Jared Eichhoff, a decent pitcher. He's got some upside, there's no doubt about that, but this is a gentleman that has also issued 4 walks in 10 innings. He's had 1 long relief appearance and 1 start so far this year. He's nothing great, he's nothing awful. Jose Urena, he looked absolutely atrocious to begin the year. But with that said, he's actually picked it up over his last 2 starts. In his last start, he went up against Max Scherzer, wound up getting that win against the Washington Nationals, went 6 innings, wound up giving up 2 runs. He gave up 1 run the last time he faced the Phillies. That was 2 Sundays ago. He wound up giving up 1 run in 7 innings. He's a guy that seems to be coming around. He's only issued 6 walks in 26 2/3 innings. He lends himself to a lot of contact. 39 hits in that time, but he also has pitched much better as of late. This is a game in which I just don't think there's going to be a lot of runs scored in because Urena has been doing well himself. The Phillies' bats, aside from that late explosion against the Mets in the final game of their series, have been pretty cold with their bats. And the Miami Marlins, well, let's face it, they just don't have too many guys that are hitting in general. You have gotten 4 home runs so far this year out of Jose Alfaro at the catcher spot. Martin Prado is hitting above 300, and Brett Anderson has actually upped out his average. He's hitting more around 250 along with Sterling Castro, but other than Miguel Rojas, they're not getting much. Curtis Granderson and Lewis Brinson out there in the outfield, hitting below 200. Galloway not hitting a whole heck of a lot better. Neil Walker barely above the Mendoza line. And then you take a look at the Philadelphia Phillies. They don't have a single guy in their lineup as of right now that's hitting above 300. JT Realmuto has been their top hitter. Rhys Hoskins seems to be coming around with the power. Bryce Harper and Andrew McCutcheon have been a little bit hit or miss so far this year. I do like what Maikel Franco is able to provide, but the Phillies are banged up themselves with Roman Quinn, Gene Segura, and Scott Kingery currently on the 10-day injured list. Segura and Kingery were both hitting above 300. Obviously, a little bit of a woe there, and I do think that the Marlins, just in general, have a little bit of better pitching, though I will say that with guys like Sir Anthony Dominguez and company out there in the bullpen of the Philadelphia Phillies, not necessarily a bad bullpen either, but I'm going to go with the Miami Marlins here with a very big plus price. Currently in wait-and-see mode, I'm trying to see if this gets ticked up to more around maybe like a 185, a 190, because I do feel like there's going to be money coming in on the Philadelphia Phillies, and I'm going to be on this total under. Going to try to see if I can get a little bit more favorable juice, but if that said, if all I can get is minus 110 on the under, I'm certainly going to take it here. So, going to be on the under in the Marlins, but currently in wait-and-see mode there. 953, 954 on the betting rotation. The San Diego Padres are on the road facing off against the Washington Nationals. Mad Max Scherzer goes for the Washington Nationals. Matt Stram for the San Diego Padres. Total in this game is between 7.5 and 7. If you like the 7, the over is minus 130. The under is plus 110. If you like 7.5, the under is anywhere between minus 120 and minus 125. The over is anywhere between even juice and plus 105. If you like the Nationals, you're laying the wood on this one, anywhere between minus 180 and minus 190. If you like the Padres, going to get a big plus price anywhere between plus 165 and plus 170. Matt Stram has actually looked a little bit better because this is a gentleman that came out of the bullpen and became a starter from the past year, and he had his rough outings to begin the year, but things seem to be going a little bit better for him. The record wouldn't indicate that as he's 0-2, but his ERA is a 3.05. He's only issued 5 walks in 20 2/3 innings. He's given up 2 dingers in that time. And Max Scherzer doesn't look like himself right now. Through 5 starts, he's won 32 1/3 innings. He's only issued 5 walks in 32 in the third innings, which is not bad, but he's been hit quite a bit. 35 hits. He still has good strikeout stuff. 44 Ks in that time period, but he's just been giving up a little bit too much hard contact. And with the San Diego Padres, they don't necessarily hit for the best of average. Going into this game, they're hitting 222 as a bunch, but they've hit 35 home runs in 25 games so far this year. Famio Reyes has provided 6 of them. He's been really unlucky if you take a look at essentially the expected on-base percentage and everything like that of players. He's been the most unlucky player in the big so far this year. Fernando Tatis Jr. has done a great job with 5 dingers of his own. He's hitting nearly 300. You got to think at some point Eric Hosmer and Ian Kinsler are going to come around with the bat, and perhaps that home run that Kinsler was able to hit against the Seattle Mariners on Wednesday was able to get him turned around. And with the Washington Nationals, Anthony Rendon has been absolutely terrific for this team, but he's also day-to-day, so that's something that you want to note. Ryan Zimmerman, also day-to-day. Trey Turner is on the 10-day injured list, so those are all big injuries for the Washington Nationals, who right now are not getting a lot out of their lineup in general. Juan Soto is able to provide some power, but he's hitting 241. Adam Eaton at the top of the lineup along with Victor Robles have both been doing a nice job of being able to get on base. And Matt Adams is a professional hitter. He's a little bit of a minus defender, but he's able to find a way on base. But Brian Dozier hitting below 200. You can't like what you're seeing out of Wilmer Defoe. You don't know what you're going to get from him game to game. And with the Nationals, they're just so badly banged up. And this could turn into a situation where they need to score a lot of runs because with the Nationals, their bullpen has been awful. Trevor Rosenthal has an ERA of a 36 so far this year. The only reliable arm, and we talked about it with Tim Murray on the podcast a couple days ago, is Sean Doolittle. Past Sean Doolittle, there is nobody in that Washington Nationals bullpen that you can trust. Meanwhile, with the San Diego Padres, if they get any sort of a lead, you know that they're going to be able to bring in Taylor Wingenter and Kirby Yates to be able to close out in the 8th and 9th inning. They are nails in the bullpen. You got to think the San Diego Padres are going to be able to scratch across a couple runs against a badly struggling Max Scherzer, and I think that they're going to be able to get this win, and they're going to be able to get to Max Scherzer a little bit. So for that reason, currently in wait-and-see mode on the over as well as the price I get with the San Diego Padres, but I'm taking the Padres, and I'm taking the over in this spot. I'm going to continue my trend of fading these star pitchers until the magic runs out. 955, 956 on the betting rotation. Speaking of star pitchers, Jacob deGrom is back on the mound for the New York Mets, who are at home facing off against the Milwaukee Brewers, who have Chase Anderson on the bump. Total in this game is 7, and it is shaded over. Over is minus 120. The under is even juice. If you like the Milwaukee Brewers, you're getting anywhere between plus 160 and plus 166. You want to lay it with the Mets anywhere between minus 175 and minus 185. The Milwaukee Brewers have not been good recently. They're on a little bit of a skid. But you know what else has not been good recently? The New York Mets bullpen. And with Jacob deGrom coming off the injured list, I think there's a very good chance that he's not going to be able to go deep in this game. Now, you do want to note that with the Milwaukee Brewers, they're going to be without Junior Guerra, who's sort of been a guy that they could maybe look to for a spot start and for relief. He's currently on bereavement. I have no idea what that's about. And currently Mike Moustakas is also day-to-day, but with the New York Mets, it looks like Brandon Nimmo is currently day-to-day as well. That is something that you want to know because he's a top-of-the-lineup hitter. And with the New York Mets, they've been doing a good job with their offense, which is why I'm going to be taking a look at this total over. With the Mets, Pete Alonso has been doing a terrific job for this team. He is hitting above 300. He's been providing a lot of power. As for the year, he has stacked up 8 home runs and 21 RBI. Jeff McNeil doing a terrific job of being able to get on base. He is hitting 363. And then you've got a bunch of other guys in this Mets lineup that have really stepped up. Robinson Cano was off to a brutal start to the year, but in their most recent game against the Phillies, went 3 for 3 to up his average of 272. He seems to be coming around. Michael Conforto, Wilson Ramos, all guys are just barely hitting below 200. Amid Rosario is hitting better this year than he did last year, and then Todd Frazier's back in the lineup. He's been struggling recently, but you got to think that he's going to be able to pick it up with the bat. And then with the Milwaukee Brewers, we all know about Christian Yelich, hitting 326, 13 home runs, and 31 RBI. That is absolutely insane. Lorenzo Cain at the top of the lineup has been terrific for this team. He's hitting 263, but he does a good job of being able to draw walks and get on base himself. Eric Thames has been hitting some deep balls himself. He's got 5 on the campaign. Now, they do have some struggling bats as well. Travis Shaw, Ryan Braun, and Jesus Aguilar are all hitting 2 or lower. And then you've got Michael Pena, who's hitting below 200 as well. Orlando Arcia at the bottom of the lineup, not necessarily getting the job done, but you got to think that the Milwaukee Brewers with Yasmani Grandal behind the dish going to be able to generate some offense here. And the last pitcher to be able to get a win for the Milwaukee Brewers, ironically enough, Chase Anderson, who I feel like is an undervalued pitcher. He has given up 3 home runs in 15 innings so far this year, but his ERA is a 3, whip 1.13, and Jacob deGrom in his last 2 starts before he went on the injured list just did not look like himself. I think there's a very good chance we only see him for 5 or 6 innings, and that leads to the New York Mets bullpen perhaps gas canning this game, which is why I am looking at the Brewers, and I am taking a look at the total over. I do not want to lay the minus 120 juice on the over, so I'm currently waiting to see if I can get a little bit of a line move there, but certainly going to be on the Brewers, but I'm currently in wait-and-see mode there because I do have a feeling that the public is going to be betting up Jacob deGrom in this spot. Game 957, 958 on the betting rotation. It is the Colorado Rockies, and they are on the road to face off against the Atlanta Braves. Max Fried on the bump for the Atlanta Braves. Meanwhile, Antonio Senzatella goes for the Colorado Rockies. Total in this game is 8.5, and the juice is on the over. Over is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The under is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. If you like the Colorado Rockies, you're getting a big plus price here. Anywhere between plus 147 and plus 155. If you want to lay it here with the Atlanta Braves, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 170 and minus 162. Max Fried has been absolutely terrific for the Atlanta Braves so far this year, but I just can't see laying this sort of a price, especially with Antonio Senzatella not necessarily being, I would consider him a top-flight starter or anything like that, but he hasn't been bad. Antonio Senzatella, in his 2 starts so far this year, 12.2 innings. He's given up 13 hits in that time period, only issued 2 walks, 1-1 with a 3.55 ERA. And Max Fried has done a great job of being able to get out of some sticky situations. In 4 starts, he has 3-0, 1.38 ERA, 1.04 whip. That is absolutely sensational, but you got to think at some point he's going to be hit around a little bit more because he has issued 20 hits. He's been doing a good job of being able to avoid the hard contact, but something that the Colorado Rockies have is quite a few guys are able to hit the ball at the ballpark. Trevor Story so far this year, hitting .292 with 5 home runs. Nolan Arenado, .278 average, 4 home runs, 17 RBI. Gotta like the way that David Dahl's been able to get on base, and this is a Rockies team that enters having won 8 of their last 10 games, so obviously some very good redeeming qualities there. And Daniel Murphy, now back in the lineup, you gotta think that reacclimating him is going to help this team out. Ryan McMahon recently off the injured list. Charlie Blackmon at the top of the lineup has been able to find something. And they've also been getting some unexpected production out of Raimel Tapia, who's hitting right around 280 himself. So obviously some good signs for the Colorado Rockies. Meanwhile, with the Atlanta Braves, they are having to do a little bit of travel since they did have to play in Cincinnati last night, so that is something that you do want to note. And they've got some very good bats as well. Nick Markakis hitting right around 300 for this team. He has been terrific. We all know that Ozzie Albies and Ronald Acuna Jr. are two up-and-coming stars in the game, with Ronald Acuna Jr. hitting nearly 300, 6 home runs, 16 RBI going into Thursday. Dansby Swanson has 21 RBI. He's been sensational. Freddie Freeman seems to be going a little bit cold, but Josh Donaldson seems to be ascending a little bit. The 2 home runs that he had in that game against the Cleveland Indians a few days ago, you got to think really helps out his confidence. And then at the catcher spot in general, they've been getting some good production, especially whenever Tyler Flowers is behind the dish and Brian McCann hitting just below 300 himself. So obviously, you've got some very good bats there. But what I do like about the Colorado Rockies as well is that their bullpen has been nailed so far this year, one of the top bullpens out there in the bigs. Sean Oberg, Wade Davis, So-O, and company, they're all getting the job done. Hunter Musgrave, maybe a guy that you want to avoid, but he did recently pitch for the Colorado Rockies against the Nationals, so that does lend itself to him perhaps being skipped, and that's obviously a good quality there. So for that reason, already locked in both these plays. I am on the Colorado Rockies, and I am on the under in this spot. I was able to get the under at minus 105, and I took the Colorado Rockies at that plus 155 price myself. So we are all locked in on that play. 959, 960 on the betting rotation. You've got the St. Louis Cardinals playing goes to the Cincinnati Reds. Anthony DeScalfani on the bump for the Reds. Miles Mikolas goes for the St. Louis Cardinals. Total in this game is 8.5, and it is shaded over. Over is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The under is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. If you want laid here with the St. Louis Cardinals, going to be laying anywhere between minus 148 and minus 155. If you like the Reds, you're going to get anywhere between plus 133 and plus 140. I'm noticing that a little bit of seam is coming in on the Cincinnati Reds, so I do like the St. Louis Cardinals in this spot, but currently I'm going to throw it out there right now just in wait-and-see mode here. Might perhaps take a look at a run line as well as Anthony DeScalfani. He had a good start in his most recent outing, giving up just 1 run in 6 innings against the San Diego Padres, but the last time he faced off against the St. Louis Cardinals, which was right about 2 weeks ago, he gave up 4 runs and only made it through 4 innings, so obviously that's not good there. Miles Mikolas got off to a very rough start to the year, to say the least, but he's looked better recently. Looked good in his start against the New York Mets about a week or so ago. In 29 innings pitched, he's only given up 7 walks. Meanwhile, DeScalfani, 8 walks in 19 and a third innings. And something that we know about the Cincinnati Reds is that they are not hitting to save their lives. Going into Thursday as a team, they were hitting a .199. Now, they do have a couple guys that are able to hit the long ball. Going into that game, Dan Diedrich had 5 home runs and 13 RBI. Jesse Winkler, 6 home runs and 11 RBI. But having Matt Kemp on the 10-day injured list is obviously hurting them. They need to get Yasiel Puig going. He's only got a couple home runs so far this year, and his average has just really not been where it's been in the past, as he's currently hitting below the Mendoza line. Joey Votto is hitting below 230, though he still does a good job of being able to get on base. And Eugenio Suarez is not hitting too much better. He's hitting right around 240. Tucker Barnard has come back to earth with his average. Jose Iglesias actually doing decent at the bottom of the lineup, but there's not too many reliable Reds hitters. Meanwhile, for the St. Louis Cardinals, they were really able to explode against the Milwaukee Brewers a couple days ago in that series. Paul Goldschmidt has upped his average to 281, 9 home runs, 19 RBI. Marcell Ozuna has followed suit with 9 home runs and 21 RBI of his own. Paul DeJong is hitting 343. He has been sensational. Colton Wong has been a little bit cold ever since his very good start to the year, but Dexter Fowler all of a sudden has been raking for this team. He is hitting above 300. He has been sensational. Yadier Molina, after a cold start to the year, has gotten it going. Jose Martinez hitting 344. He's got some power as well. Matt Carpenter at the top of the lineup. not getting the job done. But past that, you got to like what you're seeing out of the St. Louis Cardinals. This is a spot where I certainly do look at the St. Louis Cardinals. And because the Reds are so bad at hitting, and the Cardinals bullpen, it hasn't necessarily been nails, but it hasn't been too bad. And the Reds actually do have one of the best bullpens out there in the big. So even if Anthony DeSclafani does get completely destroyed, there is a chance that it's going to be mitigated a little bit more. So for that reason, I am on this total under, and with the total at minus 105 juice, I am going to lock in the under, and I am all about the St. Louis Cardinals in this spot. I'm going to see if the juice ticks down a little bit more on the Cardinals. If not, I'm just going to take them on the run line. So going to be on some form of a Cardinals play, and I'm all about the under. 961, 962 on the betting rotation. It is the Chicago Cubs on the road to face off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Robbie Ray goes for the D-backs. Kyle Hendricks on the bump for the Cubs. Total in this game is 8.5, and it is stagnant no matter which way you go. The over is minus 110, the under is minus 110, and the line on this game is pretty consistent wherever you look. The Arizona Diamondbacks are a minus 110 favorite. The Cubs are even money, aside from one book. If you go to the win, the Cubs are minus 105. I don't think that if you're betting the Cubs, you're going to want to go there. But with that said, I am not going to be betting on the Cubs. I'm going to be going with the Arizona Diamondbacks in this spot. The last time Kyle Hendricks went up against the Arizona Diamondbacks, he looked absolutely sensational. He went 7 innings. He had a double-digit amount of strikeouts. They were just unable to hit him. You got to think the Diamondbacks are going to remember that, and they're going to have much more success, as Kyle Hendricks for the year has been hit around quite a bit. In 20.1 innings, he's given up 27 hits. The only game where things really went well for him was that game against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Robbie Ray seems to be picking it up in regards to his pitching. You always have to fear the walks with him, though. In 27 and a third innings, 16 walks, but he does have 30 strikeouts. He's only allowed 2 home runs, so some redeeming qualities there. And the Arizona Diamondbacks are coming into this series white hot. They take all 4 games from the Pittsburgh Pirates. They win yesterday by a count of 5-0. You gotta like the way that Eduardo Escobar's come on. He's now hitting 284. He's been providing some RBI. Gerard Dyson at the top of the lineup, hitting 333. Christian Walker, what more can be said about him? He's hitting 341, 7 home runs, 15 RBI. Ketel Marte, 6 home runs, 21 RBI of his own. Then with the Chicago Cubs, they seem to be a little bit hit or miss with the bats. We saw it in their series against the Dodgers. They scored just 1 run yesterday, and on Wednesday they hung 7, but 6 of those runs came in the 6th inning. It was just an explosion all at once. They've got a couple guys that are doing a good job of being able to hit. Javi Baez hitting 320 for the year, has 8 home runs, 21 RBI. Jason Hayward hitting above 325, and he's been hitting for some power himself. He's been terrific for this team. David Bodie has been doing a nice job of being able to consistently get on base, along with Wilson Contreras at the catcher spot, but Kyle Schwarber hitting 200. Almora Jr. hitting below 200. Ben Zobrist is hitting 231. Anthony Rizzo just above the Mendoza line. Chris Bryant 232. You actually have some struggling bats out there for the Cubs who have really been getting some good production out of the bullpen recently. Brad Brock had to go a couple innings yesterday, so he's not going to be of service, but you got to think that perhaps they could look to someone like a Pedro Strop to be able to give them some innings. Brandon Kinsler has been nails for this team as well. Obviously, he had to pitch yesterday, but all in all, you got to like what you're seeing out of the Cubs bullpen, and the Diamondbacks have just been doing a great job of everything. Robbie Ray, not necessarily the greatest pitcher in the world, but the Diamondbacks bullpen seems to be coming alive as well, along with the bats. So for that reason, I'm going to be taking the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I've already locked in this price, and I've already locked in the under. I think that the Diamondbacks are going to be able to win a little bit more of a struggle sort of game. 963, 964 on the betting rotation. The Pittsburgh Pirates head to Los Angeles to face off against the Dodgers. Hyun Jin Ryu goes for the Dodgers. Meanwhile, Chris Archer goes for the Pirates. The total on this game is 7.5, and it is shaded under. Under is minus 120. The over is even. If you like the Pirates, you're going to be getting a nice price to try to clear the deck anywhere between plus 160 and plus 150. If you want to lay it with the Dodgers, anywhere between minus 165 and minus 175. I know that I've been one to fade Chris Archer quite a bit, but if you're giving me plus 155 with Chris Archer, I know that the Pirates have been on a 5-game losing streak, but we're going to take Chris Archer and the Pirates at this massive plus price. Hyun Jin Ryu has been pretty good so far this year. He's 2-1, whip of a 0.98, 2 walks in 20 and a third innings. He does have an issue with the long ball, though. He's given up 5 home runs so far this year. Chris Archer, as we know, doesn't necessarily go the deepest in starts. In 4 starts, he's had 23 innings, but he's been doing a great job of being able to get strikeouts. 26 punch-outs in those 23 innings. The 9 walks, not necessarily redeeming, but he does a good job of not allowing guys to hit him hard. And with the Dodgers, they're actually struggling with the bats a little bit. In 2 of their last 3 games, they've been held to 2 runs or fewer. That was the series against the Cubs, obviously. They were shut out once in that series against the Milwaukee Brewers as well, so they've been held to 2 runs or fewer in 3 of their last 5 games. You know that Cody Bellinger is going to be able to rake for this team. He has been absolutely terrific. He is hitting above 400, 12 home runs, 31 RBI. He does it all for this team, but you've actually got a couple bats that are really struggling for this team. No matter who they have at the catcher spot, they just haven't been able to hit for the LA Dodgers recently, whether it be Gale or if it be Austin Barnes. David Freese is sitting below the Mendoza line. Kike Hernandez has seen his average dip below 240. Justin Turner is hitting 250. He hasn't been providing a lot of power. Max Muncy is hitting 224. Chris Taylor is only hitting $161. He's been absolutely awful. If you want me to be honest with you, their best find has been Alex Verdugo, who's currently hitting .345 with 4 home runs. He's been absolutely terrific for this team. He had a triple off of John Lester yesterday, so he's been doing it. But past that, they're not getting a whole heck of a lot of offense. Meanwhile, you take a look at the Pittsburgh Pirates. Well, their roster is a mash unit. Brian Reynolds is day-to-day. Kevin Newman's on the 10-day injured list. Eric Gonzalez is on the 60-day injured list. And they're currently without guys like Lonnie Chisenhall and company. But they do now have Gregory Polanco back in the lineup. And he's actually been doing quite well ever since he's been able to get back with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He has yet to get his first home run, but he's hitting .333. Cole Tucker at the top of the lineup is hitting .286. That's good. Josh Bell has been able to provide a little bit of power. He's hitting above .280. Jung-Ho Kong has been struggling along with JB Shuck. Diaz behind the dish has not been good, but you do have a couple guys for the Pittsburgh Pirates that are hitting. I do think that this is going to be a struggle between the pitchers because we've noticed that the Pirates bullpen in the past couple days has been struggling a little bit, but you got to think that they're going to be able to get on track, and Chris Archer is going to be able to give them a good start. So for that reason, I'm looking at this total under, currently in wait-and-see mode on that under, but I'm going to also be taking the Pittsburgh Pirates here. The Pittsburgh Pirates are currently plus 160. I think that steam might come in on them a little bit more, so I'm in wait-and-see mode there as well. But going with the Pirates and going with the under in this spot. 965, 966 on the betting rotation. You've got the Oakland A's hitting the road to face off against the Toronto Blue Jays. Marcus Stroman toes the rubber for the Blue Jays. Mike straight fires. Actually, he's been the opposite of that so far this year for the Oakland A's. Total in this game is 8.5 and is shaded over. Over is minus 120 or minus 115, depending on where you look. Under anywhere between even juice and minus 105. If you like the Blue Jays, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 122 and minus 130. If you want to take a shot on the A's, you're getting anywhere between plus 120 and plus 109. This is a spot where Vlad Guerrero Jr. is going to be making his debut. He is such a hyped-up prospect across all forms of minor league baseball. Last year, he had .381 with 20 home runs. He was dealing with some injuries, and for service time reasons, was not on the lineup to begin opening day. But at third base, you got to think that he's going to be able to provide them a little bit of something. And Marcus Stroman might be the best 1-3 pitcher you've ever seen. He has an ERA of a 1.76. Walks have been a little bit of a bugaboo. He's issued 12 of them in 30 2/3 innings, but he has not given up a single home run this year, which is terrific. Mike Fiers on the other end. He's 2-2, and his ERA is an 8.28, a whip of a 1.72. In 25 innings, he's given up 6 long balls and has issued 10 free passes. This is a guy that I cannot trust. With the Oakland A's, they've got some pretty decent bats. Chris Davis is only hitting .232, but 10 home runs and 22 RBI, that'll get the job done. Matt Chapman hitting .311. Chad Pinder hitting above .300. He's been doing a little bit of everything. Steven Piscotty seems to be coming out of his funk. He looked good in the team's last couple games against the Texas Rangers. And then you've got Mark Canha and Jurickson Profar that are struggling at the bottom of the lineup along with Nick Hundley, but I do think that the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be able to get a jolt with Vlad Guerrero Jr. in the lineup. Big question is Freddie Galvis going to play in this game, because he has been providing a little bit of everything for this offense, hitting .311, 5 home runs, 12 RBI, but Justin Smoak has been emerging as well, hitting .284, 5 home runs, 17 RBI. He has been on a hot streak recently, but the Blue Jays in general, they're very inconsistent with the bats. Eric Sogard has been terrific ever since taking over at second base, hitting .367, but Brandon Drury still hitting below 200. Brandon Randall Grichuk, 217. Roddy Tellez has come on with a 250 average and providing some power, but it actually might be Richard Urania that has been the team's best find so far this year, hitting 313 in the infield. You gotta like what he's doing, and with so many other guys hitting below 200, it's really tough to trust that there's going to be a whole heck of a lot of runs scored in this game, even if Mike Fiers has been pretty bad so far this season. I'm currently in wait-and-see mode on the Toronto Blue Jays because for some reason, even though Vlad Guerrero Jr. is making his debut, a lot of money coming in on the A's, but with that said, I've already locked in the under at 8.5, so those are going to be my plays on that game. Under, locked in, Blue Jays, currently in wait-and-see mode. 967, 968 on the betting rotation. I feel like we're in this twilight zone here because it is the Tampa Bay Rays on the road to face off against the Boston Red Sox. The Tampa Bay Rays have announced their starter, Charlie Morton. The Boston Red Sox are the team that has this game off the board because they have yet to announce a starter. Now, I had to go to our good buddy Chris Cotillo, who wound up being a gentleman that joined this fine podcast last week, does very good work out there for Mass Live. And right now, they are considering using the opener. It might be someone like Marcus Walden and Travis Lankins that winds up getting that start. If not, they're going to be going with just someone else. And here's a direct quote from Alex Cora. Somebody's going to start. We need somebody who could get outs early in the game. Which means that we could get almost anyone in this spot because we know that David Price is going to be going on Saturday. So it looks like it's going to be some sort of an opener and a bullpen game for the Boston Red Sox, which actually means we might need to look at an over because the Tampa Bay Rays have played 6 of their last 8 games to the over. Charlie Morton has been very good the past 2 years, but he got a little bit dinged up in his last start, so that's something that you do want to note. And with the Tampa Bay Rays, their bats have actually really gotten going. Brandon Lowe hitting just below 300. He's been able to do a very good job of being able to provide some pop for this team. Having Austin Meadows on the 10-day injured list stings because he's hitting 351 with 6 home runs and 19 RBI so far this year, but we've also seen guys like Yandy Diaz be able to step up. He's hitting just below 300. He's been able to provide his fair share of long balls. Tommy Pham hitting just above 300. He's exactly the same way. Mike Zunino has picked it up with the bat. Avicio Garcia and Kevin Kiermaier doing a decent job out there in the outfield. Willie Adames at the bottom of the lineup and Daniel Robertson both have been a little bit of a woe, but they're actually hitting much better than the Boston Red Sox, who heading into their game against the Detroit Tigers yesterday as a squad were hitting 236. Things have not been going well for them. JD Martinez has really been the guy that's been able to right the ship for them. He's been their constant. He's hitting above 340 so far this year. He's been doing a little bit of everything. And then they do have a couple bats at the middle of the lineup that's been doing decent. Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers have both been doing a very decent job for this team. But Jackie Bradley Jr. hitting a $153. He made an error yesterday. He just does not look very good in general for this team. Andrew Benintendi has picked it up with the bat. He's hitting just below 300. And Mookie Betts seems to be getting out of his swoon as well. But you just can't trust that Boston Red Sox bullpen. And with Charlie Morton, he's a very good strikeout pitcher. 34 of them in 26 2/3 innings so far this season. And with the Tampa Bay Rays having off yesterday, that means that their bullpen is going to be a little bit more fresh. He's had a little bit of an issue with the walks this year, 12 walks in 26 2/3 innings, but all in all, he's been doing a good job, only giving up 2 home runs so far this year. And you got to think that after the Rays were swept by the Red Sox last week, they're going to be out for a little bit of blood in this one. So leaning towards the Rays and leaning towards an over in this one, but obviously with no line, no starting pitcher announced, it's a little bit too early to say exactly what my plays are. So those are going to be posted in the morning on my Twitter page at @Unit_81. We move on to 969, 970 on the betting rotation. The Baltimore Orioles are in Minnesota to face off against the Twins. Martin Perez goes for the Minnesota Twins. Alex Cobb for the Baltimore Orioles. Total of this game is 9.5, and it is minus 110 both ways on both the over and the under. If you like the Baltimore Orioles, well, you're going to be getting between plus 170 and plus 180. One late here with the Minnesota Twins, anywhere between minus $2 and minus 190. I'm certainly not going to lay minus $2 on the money line with Martin Perez, but oh gosh. If we remember the last time Alex Cobb faced off against the Minnesota Twins, well, let's just say it wasn't good. Alex Cobb enters this game as a result of that just absolutely atrocious start with a 12.88 ERA. He allowed 9 runs on 10 hits in a little over 2 innings. That's not good. That's not good at all. Meanwhile, Martin Perez has a 2-0 record, though that's a little bit deceiving. His ERA is a 5.31. He's given up 2 home runs in 20 and a third innings. He's also issued 12 walks. And one thing we know about the Baltimore Orioles is that their pitching just stinks. I think that going into this game, they've given up 60 home runs in 26 games. It is absolutely awful. But they've got a couple guys that can hit themselves. Renato Nunez hitting above 300, 6 home runs, 18 RBI. Trey Boom Boom Mancini has 6 home runs of his own. He's been doing a great job of getting on base, 337 average. Dwight Smith Jr. has been coming on with the bat. He's hitting just below 300. Jonathan VR is able to find a way on base as well. So with the Baltimore Orioles, you do have guys that are doing a decent job of hitting for this team. Heck, even Rio Ruiz seems to be picking it up with the bat a little bit, as well as Alberto. But with the Minnesota Twins going up against, for one, Alex Cobb, who's been awful, giving up 5 home runs in 8.1 innings, along with 15 hits in that time. His whip is a 1.92. Only redeeming quality is that he has 1 walk in those 8 and a third innings, but Eddie Rosario is raking for the Minnesota Twins. 10 home run, 23 RBI, 276 average so far this year. Jorge Polanco hitting 366. He has been absolutely sensational for the squad. You do have a couple guys out there for the Minnesota Twins that aren't necessarily hitting well. Marwin Gonzalez hitting only $1.69. Max Kepler seems to be in a little bit of a slump, and Adrianza only hitting $1.61, along with Jason Cashler at the catcher spot. But CJ Cron seems to be picking up a little bit more. Nelson Cruz, we all know what he's able to do. So I certainly think that the Minnesota Twins are going to be able to have a field day putting up runs on the Baltimore Orioles. Currently, I am seeing a run line price of even juice on the Minnesota Twins. I'm right now in wait-and-see mode. I'd like to see if I can maybe get a little bit of a plus price, even if it's just like plus 105 or anything like that. But I'm actually going to stun you guys. I'm actually looking at this total under. I'm trying to see if this thing is going to get steamed, because for all those reasons, I think that there's going to be a lot of money coming in on the over. It'll allow you to get maybe like 10 runs, something in that neighborhood. And I think that the Baltimore Orioles are going to be held at bay because Target Field is a little bit more of a pitcher's park. And you got to think that Alex Cobb is going to be better than his last start. There's no way he's going to give up so many home runs again. And having seen the Minnesota Twins, I think he's going to be able to provide a better outing. So looking at Twins run line here and looking at the under, currently in wait-and-see mode on both of those plays. 971, 972 on the betting rotation. It is the Detroit Tigers heading to the Windy City to face off against the Chicago White Sox. Daniel Norris on the bump for the Tigers. Carlos Rodon goes for the White Sox, as the White Sox are the favorite in this game, laying anywhere between minus 128 and minus 130. If you like the Tigers, you're going to get anywhere between plus 113 and plus 120. Draw in this game is 8.5, and it is shaded both ways. The under is minus 110. The over is minus 110. Carlos Rodon, as we talked about with Iain MacMillian, is a guy that I just really love to back, and I am going to be doing it once again. I don't think that the White Sox are just going to win this game by 1 run. I think they're going to win this game by multiple runs. With the White Sox, their bullpen the past couple weeks has actually been absolutely terrific. I have been very stunned because the White Sox bullpen at the beginning of the year was just absolutely awful, but now you're able to bring in some of these guys and they're actually providing some good innings. It's a real shock to me because at the beginning of the year, every time Jace Fry came into the game, you just had to cover your eyes and you'd be like, oh my goodness, what in the world is happening here? But in his last couple outings, he's actually been providing something very good. Colome out of the bullpen has been very good. Jesse Osich has been doing a great job aside from when he hit back-to-back batters. Carson Fulmer has been decent. Herrera has been able to provide some saves. So I do like what I'm seeing out of the White Sox pitching in general. And then with Daniel Norris, he's a pretty solid pitcher himself for the Detroit Tigers. The bullpen has really been letting them down, and it got taxed badly because Jordan Zimmerman got dinged up in that game yesterday against the Boston Red Sox. But Norris should be able to provide a quality start. In 2 starts so far this year, he's won 13 and a third innings. He's only had 10 strikeouts, and he's given up 3 home runs, but the 3 home runs have essentially been the extent of the runs he's given up, as he has a 2.70 ERA. With the White Sox, you've got some guys that have some power, but they haven't necessarily been hitting a ton of long balls so far this year, if that makes sense. Yoan Moncada is hitting 309, 6 home runs, 18 RBI. Tim Anderson has his average below 400, but he's still hitting, 383. He does a terrific job. Jose Abreu seems to be picking it up with the bat. He's hitting right around 230, 4 home run, 19 RBI so far this year. But now with the White Sox, they really need to get the bats out there in the outfield going. Daniel Palka has only 1 hit so far this year. He has been absolutely atrocious. Adam Engel and Nicky Delmonico both hitting below 175. Wellington Castillo hitting below the Mendoza line himself. But Lurie Garcia at the top of the lineup has been doing a nice job of being able to get on base. He's hitting just below 280. And then if you're looking for a little bit of a brighter sign out there in the outfield, Ryan Cordell is hitting 296 with 2 home runs so far this year. So the White Sox do have some bats going, and the Tigers were able to find some offense in that series against the Boston Red Sox. But all in all, they don't have a lot of redeeming qualities. Miguel Cabrera and Nico Goodrum have been doing a good job of being able to hit for some average, along with Gordon Beckham. Gordon Beckham hitting right around 255, 260-ish, so he's really been doing the job for this team. Jose Candelario seems to be coming alive with the bat, and Nick Castellanos is a good constant. I do like what Brandon Dixon provides as well, but Josh Harrison doing just an atrocious job of getting on base, along with Jacoby Jones. Hicks at the catcher spot. You don't know what you're going to get out of him from game to game. So for that reason, I am on this total under. I think that Carlos Rodon really going to be able to do a good job of being able to hold down these bats of the Tigers. Currently, I'm seeing a run line price of plus 150. With the way the line has been moving, I think that this could get to plus 155 or plus 160. So currently wait and see mode there, but I've already locked in this total under at 8.5. I am just all about it here. So we're on the under and currently in wait-and-see mode on the White Sox run line. 973, 974 on the betting rotation. We've got the Cleveland Indians heading to Houston to face off against the Astros. Colin McHugh on the bump for the Astros. Corey Kluber going for the Cleveland Indians. Total in this game is 8, and it is shaded over. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. We are seeing a straggler 8.5 out there as well. Under on that one is minus 120. The over is even juice. And Corey Kluber, a pretty significant underdog. He is plus 130, and I'm seeing a plus 125 as well out there for the Indians. Meanwhile, if you want to lay with the Astros, you're laying anywhere between minus 140 and minus 145. This is a spot where I just have to look at Corey Kluber. I have been fading him all year long, but I don't think that Colin McHugh should be a minus 140 favorite after what we saw out of him in that start against the Texas Rangers. Now, to begin the year, he had gotten off to a pretty good start. He's currently 3-2 with a 4.78 ERA. He's been doing a nice job of being able to get strikeouts, but in that start against the Texas Rangers, he gave up 9 runs in 3 1/3 innings. That just really torpedoed all his numbers. He has 28 strikeouts in 26 1/3 innings. He's given up 3 long balls in that time, but I do think that Corey Kluber is going to be able to get on track at some point. He has a 5.88 ERA. He still has gotten 29 strikeouts in 26 innings, but what's really gotten to Corey Kluber is the walks. 26 innings pitched, 12 walks so far this year. He did a very good job. I think he had like 30 or 31 walks last year in over 200 innings. You got to think that he's going to be able to get down his command. I do think that both these teams are going to be able to score a couple runs with the Houston Astros. Jose Altuve has been terrific. Going into Thursday's game against the Indians, he was hitting 277, 9 home runs, 20 RBI. Josh Reddick hitting just below 400 as well. He has really been raking with the bat. Jake Marisnick hitting right around 300. He's been really picking it up because Tony Kemp is only hitting 160 for this team. He's been bad, but up and down the lineup, you got a bunch of guys that are hitting for a very decent average. All guys are hitting right in between 280 and 315 so far this year. George Springer, Alex Bregman, Michael Brantley, Carlos Correa, Yuri Gurriel has seen a little bit of a dip in his average, but Chirinos has been doing a good job at the catcher spot as well. So I do think that there are going to be some hits in this game, and I certainly do think that both these pitchers are going to give up runs, so I've already locked in the over of 8. The Cleveland Indians, I actually feel like have a little bit of a better bullpen than the Houston Astros. The Astros have been struggling a little bit with their bullpen recently, and if you look at the Astros, they're 15-9 overall, but on the run line, they're 8-14, so they haven't necessarily been the best team at being able to close out games. The Indians are only hitting 213 as a collective, but you got to think that getting Francisco Lindor back in the lineup along with Carlos Gonzalez and Jason Kipnis really going to be able to help them out. And with the Cleveland Indians, they have Carlos Santana being able to hit for a very good average. He's still hitting above 330. Jake Bauers needs to come on with the bat. Greg Allen has been absolutely awful out there in the outfield. And then Roberto Perez also hitting below the Mendoza line, but Leonis Martin has been doing a nice job of being able to get on base, and Jose Ramirez was able to get on track in that series against the Marlins. Perhaps that gives them a little bit of hope there. So for that reason, going to be taking Corey Kluber with the big plus price, and I've already locked this one in, and I've already locked in the over on this game as well. We move on to 975, 976 on the betting rotation. We've got the Kansas City Royals playing host to the LA Angels. Tyler Skaggs on the mound for the Angels. Danny Duffy toes the rubber for the Royals. Total in this game is 8.5 and it is shaded over. The over is minus 115, the under is minus 105. If you like the LA Angels, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 125 and minus 130. Want to take a shot here on the Royals, anywhere between plus 115 and plus 120. Do you want to bet on Danny Duffy as a starter? I faded him all year long last year, and it was very profitable. And we're going to do the same thing here. Tyler Skaggs coming off the injured list, and he's a pitcher that I actually like. He gave up 4 home runs in 15 innings so far this year in his 3 starts, but he does a good job of being able to limit walks. Only 2 walks in 15 innings. Danny Duffy making his first appearance of the year, and if we know something about the Kansas City Royals, it's the fact that their bullpen is absolutely atrocious. No matter who they trot out there, it's going to be bad. And if they trot out their Brad Boxberger, it's probably just going to be a catastrophe. Meanwhile, with the Angels, you've got Mike Trout doing a great job of hitting for this team. He's hitting just above 300. Going into their game on Thursday with the Yankees, he had 6 home runs and 14 RBI. And there appear to be a couple other guys that are emerging to be able to help him out as well. You've got Brandon Goodwin, who's hitting above 300, and for that matter, he's hitting above 330. He's been able to provide some pop in regards to home runs. Andrelton Simmons on Wednesday was able to provide 2 home runs. He's upped his average to back above 260. Albert Pujols has been struggling, but Daniel Fletcher is doing a nice job of being able to get on base. Cole Calhoun's still hitting below the Mendoza line, but they've essentially relegated Peter Borges and Zach Kozart, who, oh, by the way, is on the 10-day injury list, out of the lineup because they weren't producing. And Jonathan Lucroy at the catcher spot, also doing a decent job there. Meanwhile, with the Royals, they've got a couple guys that can hit. Hunter Dozier hitting 324, 7 home runs, 12 RBI. Alex Gordon hitting above 300 as well. He's provided 21 RBI to go with his 5 dingers. And then you've got guys that don't necessarily hit for average, but have been doing a good job of being able to provide some power in Jorge Soler, who has a couple long balls himself, but is only hitting 229. Ryan O'Hearn and Lucas Duda are hitting below the Mendoza line as well, but O'Hearn has been able to provide a little bit of power himself. But you got like what you see at the top of the lineup. Adalberto Mondesi and Whit Merrifield are both hitting above 280. They do a nice job of being able to get on base, and we all know about the speed of Billy Hamilton and a guy that sort of plays a little bit of a platoon outfield position in Terrence Gore. I do think that there are going to be some runs in this game, but I do think that the Angels are going to be able to find a way to pull it out. I've already locked in the Angels money line price, currently in wait-and-see mode on the over, trying to see if I can get over 9 at a little bit of like a plus 105-ish price. So those are going to be the plays there as we move on to 977, 978 on the betting rotation. It is the Texas Rangers on the road to face off against the Seattle Mariners. Yusei Kikuchi goes for the Seattle Mariners. Shelby Miller for the Texas Rangers. Total in this game is 8.5, and it is shaded over. The over is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. The under is anywhere between even juice and minus 105. We're seeing a 9 out there. The juice on that under is minus 120. The over is even. And if you like the Texas Rangers, well, you're going to be getting a very nice plus price, anywhere between plus 150 and plus 155. Meanwhile, if you want to lay it here with the Seattle Mariners, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 160 and minus 165. This is a spot where I really do like the Seattle Mariners. I don't want to necessarily lay that money line price here, so I'm going to be taking a look at the Mariners on the run line. Currently seeing a run line price across the board of plus 115. Going to see if this balloons maybe a little bit more to plus 120-ish, and I actually wrote this play up for the New York Post, and I am all about this over. With the Mariners going into this series, they were on pace to hit 336 home runs for the year, as they had 56 home runs entering into their game on Thursday. This team has been absolutely amazing with the bats. It doesn't matter who it is. Daniel Vogelbach, Edwin Encarnacion, Mitch Haniger, Ryan Healy, the list goes on and on. They've got so many guys providing power. Now, you do want to note that Jay Bruce is day today. He's likely going to be out of the lineup in this game, and he has 9 home runs, but he's only hitting 208 himself. Domingo Santana entered into Thursday with 27 RBI. And with the Texas Rangers, they've got a couple guys that are mashing as well. Joey Gallo going into the game on Thursday, hitting .284, 8 home runs, 22 RBI. Elvis Andrus has been doing a great job of getting on base, along with Sin-Chu Chu and Danny Santana. All these guys hitting above .290. Noah Mazzaro is a little bit of a feast or famine player, but on Wednesday, he was able to belt out 2 home runs. You got to think that that's big for his confidence. Logan Forsythe had a home run in that game as well, though I will say that Patrick Wisdom, Jeff Mathis, all these guys are not doing a good job with average. Lionel DeShields Jr. needs to be on that list as well. But Hunter Pence has been a very good pinch hitter / guy that could just give you a couple solid at-bats as well. And as Drupal Cabrera seems to be coming around with the bat. Kikuchi has given up 3 earned runs in every one of his starts in the month of April. Meanwhile, with Shelby Miller, it's not good. He's got an ERA of a 7.63. He's won 15.1 innings in his 4 starts, and he has allowed 3 long balls. He has 6 strikeouts in that time period and 13 walks. And with the Texas Rangers having to use this mismatch of starters, their bullpen is so badly tanked it's not even funny. That is why I'm on the Mariners run line, and I am all about this over. Currently in wait-and-see mode on the Mariners run line, but I've already locked in over 9 at a little bit of a plus price of plus 105. So we move on to the final game on the betting board as we've got the New York Yankees going west to face off against the San Francisco Giants. Good pitching matchup here with James Paxton going on the bump for the Yankees. Mad Bum, Madison Bumgarner for the San Francisco Giants. Total in this game is 6.5 and it is shaded over. Over is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. If you like the under, that is anywhere between even juice and minus 105. If you like the Giants, you're going to get a little bit of a plus price, anywhere between even juice and plus 105. Meanwhile, if you want to lay it here with the Yankees, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 110 and minus 114. James Paxton has been absolutely terrific in his last couple starts, striking out 12 batters in each of those 2 starts, but Madison Bumgarner is not chopped liver either. I know that Gary Sanchez is returning to the lineup, but the Yankees still without 5 of their 9 starters from opening day so far this year. And you got to think that the Yankees bullpen is a little bit gassed since they haven't had a day off in quite a while. Meanwhile, with the San Francisco Giants, they have the best team bullpen ERA out there in the big leagues. I do think that some of these bats are going to be able to get to James Paxton. We've noticed with the San Francisco Giants that their offense is beginning to ascend. In their last 2 games, they were able to belt out 11 runs, and having Pablo Sandoval in there at the DH spot helps. He was able to hit a home run on Wednesday against the Toronto Blue Jays. He's hitting .333. He's the only player in that lineup that is currently hitting above .235, by the way. And it looks like the other guys are starting to come around with the bat as well. Buster Posey was able to hit that home run over the weekend against the Pittsburgh Pirates. That seems to have gotten him going. Brandon Belt seems to be doing a little bit of a better job with the bat. And it seems like they're able to draw a couple more walks with guys like Joe Panik and company at the bottom of the lineup. Meanwhile, with the New York Yankees, they are a mismatch of players, but they still obviously have some power. Luke Voigt, only hitting .236 with 7 home runs, 19 RBI. Brett Gardner had a terrific series against the LA Angels. He was really able to get back on track. Now Clint Frazier's on the injured list. That's obviously not good, but DJ LeMahieu doing a nice job of being able to get on base. Gleyber Torres is ascending, and Gio Urshela proving to be a guy that can be reliable in regards to getting on base. But I do think that Madison Bumgarner is going to be able to do a very good job of being able to keep these bats off guard. So for that reason, I'm going to be taking the Giants, and I'm going to be taking the total over with the way that the Giants were hitting late in that series against the Toronto Blue Jays. Currently in wait-and-see mode on both these plays, but that's what I'm going to be going with on this interleague game. And that will do it for a Friday edition of MLB Overtime Betting. A big thanks to Iain MacMillian of OddsShark for joining me in the last segment. And if you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, you can subscribe on Apple iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you ever have a question for the podcast, feel free to tweet it in at @GUnit_81. And let's make today a fun, successful, and profitable one, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.